What's going on, Dolphins fans? It's Connor from the Dolphins Dive. In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down the upcoming matchup of the Miami Dolphins versus the Dallas Cowboys coming up here on Christmas Eve. It's a major matchup between two top-end teams that both have a lot to prove. And of course, the Dolphins get another very good team coming off of a brutal loss with the Cowboys getting dominated on the ground by the Bills. Starting with the offensive side of the ball, the Dolphins are first in points per game. The Cowboys defense is fifth in points allowed. Dolphins are first in passing yards per game. Cowboys defense is fourth in passing yards allowed. Dolphins are fourth in rushing yards per game. Cowboys are 19th in rushing yards allowed. So overall, both of these units are both top in the league, aside from the Cowboys run defense, which has been highly criticized all year. My friend who's a Giants fan, who pays attention to the Cowboys a little more than I do, was explaining to me how big of a hold that is for them, and obviously the Bills exposed that. I think running the ball, I forget how many times, 39 times, something crazy like that. And my perspective on that is this Cowboys team's really built to play with a lead. They're usually boat race teams, and other opponents are forced to have to try and pass the ball consistently to try and take advantage of them. But once you don't have that ability to have the lead, and you have to try and you're able to be more balanced, you're able to run the ball more, have the fear of play action, that's when the Cowboys defense tends to struggle. So that's what the Dolphins are going to have to look to take advantage of. And the first key of the game is to run the football. Now, obviously, the Bills have that blueprint. All the teams that have had success against them have run the football, so I'm not stating anything brand new. But like I mentioned, they're built to play with the lead, but when you have to force their defense to stay on their toes and with the threat of the run or the pass, that's when you could take advantage of them. So run the ball. Second key of the game, and kind of hand in hand with not letting them have a lead, is limit the mistakes. No stupid interceptions, penalties that get you backed up. Limiting those mistakes so that way, even if you're not able to have a successful drive in terms of scoring points, you're not putting your team in a bad position to where now the defense is on their heels and they just let up back-to-back scores, and now you're climbing out of a hole and you're trying to come back, because then they can pin their ears back and pass rush on you, which they're one of the best units in all football with Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence and that whole group. So you just can't let them have a big lead where you become predictable that you're going to pass the ball every down. And last but not least, keep Tua safe. This offensive line is still pretty banged up. So keep Tua protected. That's when he has most success. And part of that is also the play calling and Tua's decision making. Obviously, no one gets the ball out of his hands faster than Tua, and that was a big reason why he was able to stay upright so much against the Jets. Was a lot of quick decisions, which was a marriage of the play calls as well as Tua's execution. So look for that to keep going. As for injury updates, it looks like Achan's going to play. Tyreek Hill seems like he's going to play as well, which are huge pieces. McDaniel said no setbacks on Tyreek, which leads me to believe that he's going to be good to go. Robert Hunt and Austin Jackson, I both believe, didn't practice today. Hunt's ruled out. Austin Jackson has a chance to play, which is actually going to be a key piece, because if we can have at least both our starting tackles, at least Micah Parsons can't ruin a backup's day. At least let it be a starter he's going up against. We'll see what happens there. But some players to watch for the Cowboys defense. They've got a lot of guys, starting with probably the defensive rookie of the year, Deron Bland, leads the league in pick sixes. He's an absolute unit. Micah Parsons, obviously we all know about him, elite edge rusher. He's very dynamic. Stephon Gilmore, obviously we have a lot of familiarity with him in the division. Obviously older now, but still a very good corner. A low-key guy I put on here because I'm an Ohio State fan and I know of him and I don't think he gets enough love. Malik Hooker, one of their safeties. He's got a lot of range, very dynamic player who early in his career struggled with injuries. With Dallas, he's been able to stay on the field more, and he's had a lot of success. And then DeMarcus Lawrence, obviously been in the league for a long time, very good pass rusher. And then Osa Odigizua, their interior defensive lineman, who's very, very good. Player to keep an eye out. But overall, I think the key for the Dolphins to have success is to be able to stay balanced with their run game, play pass game, or play action pass game, and then their pass game. Can't be predictable. Got to keep mixing it up, which, like I mentioned, you just can't let the Cowboys boat race you. You have to stay within punching distance, which is where we're going to break down defense. Cowboys offense is second in points per game. The Dolphins finally overtook them for first again. Dolphins defense is 14th in points allowed. Obviously has been on a steady upward trajectory ever since the beginning of the season where they struggled mightily. Cowboys are 6th in passing yards per game. Dolphins are 10th in passing yards allowed. Cowboys are 12th in rushing yards per game, and the Dolphins are 4th in rushing yards allowed. So Dolphins are very good at preventing yards and have been steadily improving in terms of points allowed. And once again, similar to the offense, these units are both very, very good, both top in the league with the Cowboys offense and the Dolphins defense. So we've got great matchups on both sides of the ball, so it's really going to be a barn burner. Defensive notes, I don't know if I have any updates on Javon Holland as of this moment, which is frustrating, or Xavier Howard. I'm going to guess Howard's going to play. Seems like he was more of a game-time decision last week. As for Holland, I don't know. I believe he didn't practice the last time out. Not positive. With that said, the backups last week at safety at least played well, so in case we are without Holland, at least they've been improving. At least his backups have been improving. Defensive keys, I really didn't write much because it's the game plan varies by Vic Fangio. I think taking out CeeDee Lamb is my first key. That's very imperative. Whether that's traveling Jalen Ramsey, which we did last week with Garrett Wilson, it was clearly effective. So if that, by all means, do that if that's necessary, because obviously teams have exposed us for not doing that. But this Cowboys seems very balanced. I mean, as you can tell by the numbers, 12th in rushing yards per game, 6th in passing yards per game. They're very efficient. I think the biggest thing is to try and just get Dak off rhythm, making him go through his progressions, try and hold the ball, and try and get our pass rushes on him, which this defense is kind of built to do. We're a cover-first defense. But I would like to see some more pressure get brought on occasion, which Fangio does. He doesn't send a lot of pressure, but when he does, it tends to be effective. So I'm hoping he brings some pressure as this Dallas offensive line is very, very good. But no real keys for the game besides trying to eliminate CeeDee Lamb. Watch the Jake Ferguson seam ball. He loves throwing them. But Dak's a very good player who goes through his progressions. Like he's going to make his plays. This offense are going to make plays. It's just about holding them to threes. So I guess that's another key. Try and hold them to threes when you can. But there's no astounding keys aside from just doing what the Dolphins do defensively and just limit the mistakes on the back end, which they did last week. We really have only seen it in the Titans game with some coverage busts, but it's not common for the Dolphins. So just continue doing what they're doing. Get after the passer. Nothing that is a surprise to anybody. Players to watch for the Cowboys offense. Dak Prescott, obviously. I think a lot of people like to shit on him. Obviously, the Cowboys are a very popular team, but I think Dak Prescott's one of the best quarterbacks in all football. Love his story. He's a great human. He's gone through a lot. I just have a lot of appreciation for Dak, so root for his success outside of this game. Hopefully he throws 5 picks. Tony Pollard on my fantasy team. On my bench, though. Let it be known. Very dynamic player in the run and pass game. He's not a workhorse. He's not going to get 20 carries a game, but when he gets the ball, he can be very explosive. Jake Ferguson, as I mentioned, Dak Prescott loves him in the seams or in the red zone. He's a very solid tight end and receiving threat. CeeDee Lamb, obviously one of the best receivers in all of football. Silky smooth route runner. Great after the catch. Just very dynamic player. Very curious to see how Vic Fangio matches up with him. Does he leave Ramsey one-on-one, moving him around? I think that's what he should do. He did it last week. It had success. So I hope that's what they do this week. And then just giving credit to the Cowboys offensive line, which has been one of the top units in the league for like the past decade now. Tyron Smith has been in the league like as long as I've been alive, it feels like. Zach Martin, Tyler Byett, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he's a stud. They have a very good offensive line, and they have for a long time. So they've got a lot of dogs on the offensive line. But going into my predictions, I'm 9-4 on the season, as are the Dolphins, I believe. Does that math? I'm 10-4. Sorry, math ain't mathin'. Dolphins are 10-4. I'm 10-4 in my predictions. I've picked the Dolphins to win every single game this year. I know I'm a biased coward. Okay, including 21-10 dating back to last year. Now for this prediction, I thought this was gonna be the first time I give the Dolphins the L. I was confident with that ahead of the week because obviously the Dolphins are banged up. The Cowboys defense is pretty dominant pass rushing. So with the holes on our offensive line, but they bounced back very well against the Jets, and I had a little hope that maybe I do give them a dub. Cowboys struggle stopping the run, and they struggle on the road. I think the combination of that, Mike McDaniel can hopefully look to take advantage of. So I'm following the Dolphins again. Dolphins win 27-24. Comment your predictions down below. Appreciate you guys for watching, and until next time, I'll catch y'all.